Hello, my name is Kamil KOPECKY and I am from Czech Republic, from University Olomouc, Faculty of Education, and I'd like to introduce my article or my paper focused on cyberbullying and sexting among Czech children and university students. First of all, I'd like to introduce two research studies focused on cyberbullying and sexting. The first of them is called Research of Risky Behavior of Students of the Faculty of Education, University Olomouc. It was a research realized on students of our faculty. And another one study is called Risks of Internet Communication 4, and it was a research connected with children across all parts of the Czech Republic, and I will say more on other sides of this presentation topics. The studies were aimed on cyberbullying. There are a lot of forms, different forms of cyberbullying linked to internet services, especially social networks, and we have about 4 or 5 main form of cyberbullying in this research. So the first of topic is verbal aggression. Another is blackmailing, threats, attacks on the account, and other one. Another topic is focused on establishing of virtual contacts. It's focused on communication with another internet users, and children and students don't know who is on the other side of computer, so internet users are unauthorized, and we try to search how is it with personal meetings, how is it with cyber grooming, how is it with social engineering and more. Another topic is sexting. It's public sharing of intimate materials across internet, and in our researches we were focused on two forms. The first one is sharing of materials, and another one is distributing materials to another people across or through social networks and another internet communication tubes. Another topic is sharing of personal data on the internet and using of social networks. Another definition is focused on sexting. It's electronic distribution of text messages on photos and on videos with sexual content, and this form of attack is realized through electronic media in a virtual environment, especially the internet. I will say more in other sites. Now something about methods and methodology. First of all is research goal or research goals. The objective of both researches was to ascertain the number of victims and attackers involved in the various manifestations of cyberbullying. So what does it mean? It's about how many victims of cyberbullying are in a target group, which forms of cyberbullying are inside this target group, and how hard was it, how was it done, with using of mobile phone, with using of internet, etc. Another goal was to monitor with whom the victim should seek for help if it's needed. So how is it after cyberbullying, what the children are doing, and more. And other goals are switching of roles if there are any differences, and if there are any switch between victims and attackers. and another goal was focused on connection between cyberbullying and sexting. Another part of methodology is research sample or research samples. Sample 1, it's a group of students. We had more than 300 students in this group. You can see that more than 80% were female students. The reason for this is that this sample was created on Faculty of Education, and on this type of university faculties are very high number of girls and women in students. So this is the reason why the target group of female students is so high. Sample 2, it's a sample of primary and secondary school pupils in age 11 to 17. In a group was more than 21,000 respondents from all parts of the Czech Republic. And you can see that there is more than 40% of boys and more than 50% of girls. So it's a proportional sample. The researches have been oriented mainly quantitatively, and the general method of this research was questionnaire. The questionnaires were more than 70 items and were distributed online in a timetable from November 2012 to March 2013. And now something about results. First of all, I'd like to say something about results in the area of cyberbullying. We monitored 5 general forms. I told about these forms in the first part of the speaking or the speech. First group are verbal attacks. Another group are threats and intimidation. Another one is identity theft. Another one is blackmailing and embarrassing by spreading photos, video and audio. So, and now something to results. First of all is cyberbullying of university students. If you watch or if you look at this graph, you will see that more than 30% of students were victims of verbal attacks. Another high levels or high numbers we find in a form threats and intimidation, and in a form embarrassing by spreading photos. And you can see that another numbers, 6% of target group were victims of identity theft, and about 5% were victims of blackmailing. If we look on results of cyberbullying of children, you can see that more than 30% of children, Czech children age 11 to 17, were victims of cyberbullying in a form of verbal attacks. And another high level, 17%, are threats and intimidation. And on another places were embarrassing by spreading photos and identity theft. And if we try to compare the results from 2 researches, you can see the graph comparison of the incidents. So you see that verbal attacks are on the same level, and you can look that also another forms of cyberbullying are on the same level. Look at threats and intimidation, 14%, identity theft 6%, and you see another results on this graph. Uh, Another part of results or another group of results are results focusing on sexting. We observed two main forms of sexting, sharing and sending of unintimate sexually toned materials. If you look on this graph, you will see comparison of the incidents between children and university students. 7 to 9% of children shares their own sexual content across internet services, and you also see that amount of shares and sending in a group of students is higher. It's about 12 to 20%. Motivation. So another question is motivation for sexting. If you look at children and students, there are some differences. In a group of children, the first and the most frequented reason for sexting was overcoming boredom and obtaining a boyfriend or girlfriend, because the children in this age are teenagers and they are looking for a relationship with girls and boys, and they using sexting as a form of communication, as a form of process of obtaining a partner, boy or girl. And another was a form of self-presentation. Many children are using their photos as a form of presentation, especially on social networks, Facebook, G+, and on other places. And if we try to compare these results from results of university students, sexting is a part of relationship. Sexting is realized as a form of desire to show off, to be visible, and also some students realized sexting as artistic art, as a form as artistic art. The incidence of cyberbullying among Czech university students is comparable in the incidence of cyberbullying among Czech children. You saw graphs before the slides, and you saw the numbers. So we think that verbal forms of cyberbullying prevail, followed by extortion and theft of identity, misused for cyberbullying. Sexting is operated more by university students, while sexting is operated mainly in the context of relationships. The risk of misuse of intimate materials is very high for both target groups. Thank you for your attention, and if you want to contact me, you can use email you see on your screen.